It's the last day of the first month of the last quarter of 2025. Welcome to Disrupt or Die Academy. Let me tell y'all something, right? I was filming a video last week for Disrupt or Die to promote it on IG, and my husband was over hearing what I was saying, and he said at first, like, gosh, he thought it was morbid, Disrupt or Die, what the heck? But he listened to me unpack it. Then he said, then I became a fan. I'm picking up what you're putting down. And that's what we're here for you to do today. We're here to remember who the fuck we are. I said an F word. We are the Disruption Company. I want to tell you all this. Jean Marie has earned the right for us to do two things. Put some respect on disruption by capitalizing that D. Every time we say disruption, every time we talk about disruption, it's not everybody else's disruption. So it's a capital D and it has an R. It's a registered trademark. It is how we see the world. So it's our mindset. Ooh, someone needs to go on mute, please. All right, thank you. It's how we see the world. We're pirates. We don't see the world the way others do, right? We have our own language, disruption. We have our own values. We have our own way of working. So, disruption with a capital D and the registered trademark name with the R, the little R at the end of it, it is our mindset and our tool set. And I tell you, my friends, if first we don't start by disrupting our own conventions personally, we're headed for irrelevance. If we keep showing up the same way we always freaking show up, no one's checking for us. So when we say disrupt or die, that's what we mean. Don't keep doing things the way we have always done them. We have a toolkit, disruption, that allows us to show up with confidence, with clarity. We are uniquely qualified to step into our clients' offices, to step onto a Teams call, and we are uniquely qualified to have them own a larger share of the marketplace and a larger place in culture. We're uniquely qualified for that. And too many times we're chasing the algorithms and chasing other things and just showing up with the same old, same old. And so disrupt or die, when Aaron issued this call, I was like, I got excited, right? Erin is our global CEO, and she came on and she was like, disrupt or die. That's what we have to do. And I'm like, ooh, it gives me the tinglies, right? And we want you to have the tinglies. When we got the opportunity to work with Jen Costello to put this together, gosh, our team got excited. We want you to be excited about this. We have brought together some of our best practitioners of disruption to take us through this series. Disruption or die, disrupt or die. This academy is for everyone. So if you're new to the ship, it's for you. If you're emerging, it's for you. If you're thriving, it's for you. If you're rising, it's for you. If you are the most seasoned executive at TBWA, this is for you. Because if you think you know disruption, you have to think again. We have our most potent upgrade right here, right now. This is our time to upgrade our software. And Jen and her team, they've done it, and they're here to share it with you, right? So joining Jen today is my friend, and maybe soon to be yours, I'm not so sure, Natalie Gruis. And Natalie is one of the sharpest practitioners of disruption. There's nothing that she can't wield disruption to do, right? And so Jen and Natalie today are going to take you through defining disruption. TBWA, are you ready? I don't see any emojis. You're not throwing one hearts. All right, that hand raise function meant to be yes, yes. Are you swearing in? Yes, yes, yes. I need to see a little more hearts. Yep, 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 yep. All right, before we get into today, I want to turn it over to Armando. Armando has worked his heart, his head, his fingers, and everything else in helping us to bring Disrupt or Die Academy to life. So, Armando, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. I'm very excited about this series because we put a lot of work, like you said, and I've been working in TBWA for almost 3 years. And the most inspiring elements that I found in here in TBWA is the culture and the methodologies. It's applied to everyday work. So that excites me a lot. And for me, this series is so important because first, this is my first time experience it as software update, and for all the parts worldwide. Plus, this format is also new. 75 minutes of disruption is something new for TBWAU, no? So for this, let's remind our house rules. The rule number one is be present, put your phone away, be here and now ready for disrupt. The rule number two is turn on your camera if you can and interact with all the content that we prepared for this session. Use the hand raise function if you want to talk, if you want to speak. And lastly, leave quietly. If you need to leave, if you need to go to somewhere else, don't worry. Just don't announce it in the chat. This session has been recorded and to be ready for you in Knowledge Hub and the GLP YouTube channel. No, and for this session, we're preparing a polls to measure your level of disruptive. So 1 second, let me launch the poll. So the poll is going to appear in your screen right now. And please help us to reply to this poll. We want to know how is your level of disruption. So I'm checking.
What do
We
you
need to
put
get
in, Gizem?
141 responses. Come
Okay.
on. More, more, more. Quickly, quickly. Don't overthink it.
Okay.
Just get on there and do it.
Because I know, but I need to back up to you. So you are in the best place to be. And without further ado, let's introduce Jen and Nat, and let's ready to disrupt or die.
Nice.
All right, show them some love, y'all. Show them some love. They need love. They need love. Let's see some hearts.
I'm sorry, you guys. I was literally just sitting here so captivated by this opening. I'm like, oh shit, I better get it together. I have to present this. I was ready for a GLP session. All right, party people. Here we go. All right, I'm in the game. I'm in the game. This is happening. So welcome everybody. I literally could not explain what Disrupt or Die is all about better than Rhonda and better than Armando. So I'm going to leave it right there. All I want to say at the very start of this, the Disrupt or Die Academy is a commitment from all of us, from the GLP, from the leadership at TBWA, from many of the leaders around the most important agencies in our collective. The disruption is the thing. It is our thing. Put a little respect on disruption.
Morning. How are
Also,
you? Yeah,
oh, good
good, good.
morning.
What?
Hi.
I think you need to be on
If,
mute, morning
if, you-
person.
if you're going to be that awake in the morning, I want to know who it is. She's like, no, I'm hiding. That's all right. So anyway, welcome to Disrupt or Die Academy. This is a commitment for all the oldies, all the newbies, anybody that wants to learn anything new about disruption, which no matter whether you're a guru or at the very beginning, as you probably just captured in that poll, this is for you. So Rhonda did a gorgeous job of talking about Nat, but I will just take a quick moment on Natalie as well. Natalie has actually been my partner, my disruption partner in crime, for many years. I think we're going on 10 maybe now, which is, time marches on. But, Natalie is an amazing strategist. She is the architect of some of the best case studies of disruption within the collective, and I am very grateful that she is here. Whether it's me talking or someone else talking, anything that you see from around the topic or the theme of disruption, I have probably stress tested it with Natalie because she is my disruption angel or devil, depending on what we're talking about, on my shoulder all the time. So I'm very glad she's here. She didn't have to do this, but she's put in the time and the energy on this. So thank you. And then hello to all of you, pirates, my people, my pirates. I love actually to start here because it is a reminder of who the fuck we are. You are not in this room, but you are at TBWA because you've got a little bit of that pirate spirit, much more so the Navy spirit. You've got a healthy disrespect for rules, a little bit of appropriate disobedience, the desire to do something different. And that is what I fell in love with about disruption years and years ago, is it effectively, it's a methodology, it's a philosophy, it's an attitude that helps us do just that. So what I would say right now is, just like a good training session, just like a good workout, I think you've actually done the hardest part, which is get yourself here. So check that off the list. You've made it, you've done it. And so whether you are someone that's been practicing disruption for a very long time, I hope today you find something that opens up a fresh perspective or a new way of thinking. Or if you're brand new, I hope you get a new lease on disruption life. And I'm going to pause for just a moment because I'm actually wondering if these slides are not moving. Of course they're not moving. Why would they? Hold on one second, guys. Yes, but
I think we lost Jen for a moment. There's only me.
I think we lost her, yes. I thought it
Yeah,
was me, but no.
Thank you. No. Don't worry. We're working on it.
But if you ever want to be frozen on a frame, like that's a beautiful frame she's frozen on.
I've seen worse, yeah.
Coming back in.
Right?
Yes.
It's almost as if she planned it. Like now we're just stuck looking at her gorgeous face. Like, what the heck?
Let me see if she can come back in. Otherwise, I'll pop it up.
Well, in the meanwhile, I can let you know that the Q&A channel is open, so you can start leaving your questions in case you're interested to know more about disruption. So the Q&A is open. You can always put it over there because in the chat we'll lose it. So you can use it. You can use the Q&A.
Does anyone have any burning questions on? Oh, here we go. It's moving. You can save your burning questions for our poll.
boy, I just snuck back
Like,
in. I was
God.
really curious how you guys were going to tap dance. Lordy. All right. I don't know where I left off. But anyway, today's all about defining disruption. This is about making sure that we know who we are, the disruption company, and that is disruption with 2 R's, which is our registered trademark for real. We are going to spend a lot of time today, not a lot of time, we're going to spend about 45 minutes telling you, defining disruption, why we need it, what it is, and why it's so critical now. But before we do a lick of that, I think we want to feel you. We want you to catch the vibe. We want you to feel the attitude of disruption. So I'm not going to explain that to you. I'm going to show it to you.
I think there's
No
no
sound.
sound.
No sound.
I can sing, but not as good.
Boy, this is where you're like, we do a tech check for a reason.
That's why.
Wait a minute, get it how you live it. 10 toes in when we standing on business. I got loyalty inside my DNA. Cocaine quarter piece, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA.
They keep going and going and going.
Turning at your buggy.
Two pieces of advice. Think big and look right inside. As simple as that.
I got realness, I just feel shit cause it's in my DNA. I got millions, I got riches building in my DNA. I got dark, I got evil that rot inside my DNA. I got off, I got trouble, some heart inside my DNA. I just win again, then win again like Wimbledon I serve. Yeah, that's him again, the sound the engine in is like a bird. You see fireworks and cover.
Would you watch a 10-minute TikTok?
Good. Don't. But I will.
So they're turning discarded shells into stronger, huh? Why? Well, because disruption helps the planet with their side hustle. This is a solid 10 out of 10.
You know, you can keep coming at it. You can keep coming at it. That well is rich.
I'm about it till it's over.
Bow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay. Bow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay. Bow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay. Bow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay.
Bow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay. The sounds of a dog bring me to another day.
All right, babes, that is the attitude. That is the feel, the vibe of disruption. So you saw that invitation at the very end. Now it's your turn. When all of us do that, when all of us lean into it, we become unmissable, undeniable, unrivaled as the disruption company. And that matters so much because that is our distinction. I don't believe in mandates, but if I were going to give one, it would be this, which is that if you don't believe in disruption, we love you, but this may not be the place for you. We love the methodology, the philosophy, and the creative outcomes that disruption creates for us. So my hope is that everybody walks away from here, believers, advocates, Pied Pipers for everything that disruption can do. And you're not just going to hear it from me and Nat. There's going to be a group of people over the next 2 months that are going to show up, really powerful leaders from Dustin and Meg in New York to JR and Steph in LA, the brilliant Emmanuel and Pete in Singapore, Hakahodo, as well as the group in Sydney, coming to you to talk to you about disruption and how they have used it in really different ways. And that is the thing that I love the most about disruption, is that if we can all come from the same understanding, the same definition, and the same point of view about what it is and why it matters, you then put it in the hands of anybody in this collective, and they are going to do something distinct and special with it. That's what I love about it. And that's what Disruptor Die Academy is going to be all about. Today, like I said, it's all about sort of the fundamentals. It's about the baseline. I'm going to talk to you about where Disruptor Die came from, why it's so critical, why it's an imperative for us right now. Nat's going to get into disruption defined. So really, what is disruption? If you've been here for a minute, you know that there have been a lot of different definitions of disruption over the years. We want to sort of wipe all of that away and go, if you're going to use one singular, the most potent definition of disruption, this is what it is. And then we'll get into disruption today, how to use it in more modern places and spaces, and then talk about the invitation for you coming out of both today as well as the Academy overall.
Hey,
if
Nat,
I got a couple
before
oh yes, please.
Jen, I'm sorry. Before continue, your camera is off, so
no, it's not.
For
No, it's
no,
not, Armando. Come on. I can't be having this many tech issues. It shows me as on.
Yeah, it's on.
It is on.
Now we can see you.
Now you're on.
Yeah.
Now
we can see you. Thank you. Yeah, but before continue.
I appreciate it. I am really cementing the fact that you guys will never ask me to present from my screen again. And exactly how I'd like it. That is my disruption today. Okay. 3 goals. I want everybody to walk away both onboarded and on board. I want you to feel prepared. I want to feel like if anybody talked to you about disruption today, you could explain it to them, and I want you to believe it. I want you to feel it. I want you to see its power. I want everyone here to know what mission it is that we are running. Yes, the disruption mission, but why we're running it, why it's so critical. And for us to all come from the same set of language and the same definition in order to do what I just talked about, which is everybody being inspired to disrupt uniquely. That's the power of disruption. You talk to Jean-Marie Drew, you read the books. It is a framework for people that hate frameworks. It is a system for people that reject systems. So yes, it's powerful that it holds us in like that. But again, the power of it is the diversity of creative output and outcome. Because I think that this point is so critical. It is not a framework. It is not a system. It is not a straitjacket. It is not a color by numbers. Disruption is not dogma. It is our operating system. It is our software. And what you do with it is its ultimate power. Lee Clow, if you don't know, sort of the creative godfather of Shine LA, which is the home office of TBWA that I grew up in, I have always loved this quote from him. He said, disruption for us is more than a noun, it's more than a book, and it's more than a process. It is who we are. It is how we act. It is how we think. It is how we should look at our businesses. It's how should we look at our clients. It is a lens through which we should view the world and which the world should view our network. I love this because it really does talk about it as both philosophy and methodology, ethos, as well as a system. And as I said, this is not disruption, meaning the negative or imprecise or often misused version of this word that we hear and see in culture and in business so much. This is our very specific, our very precise, our very positive definition of disruption. And it's a word that we've been using far, far, far longer than anybody else, which is how we got to that registered trademark. So the last thing before we really jump into the instruction, disruption can only ever be in constant beta, meaning it can only ever be changing and evolving and adapting based on the people that are actually practicing it. And so if you are here, you are now part of that experience. You are now part of that experiment and that activation. So welcome to initiation or welcome to your recommitment. Welcome to Disrupt or Die. So let's start here. Let's start with why we are saying disrupt or die, other than it just being a gorgeous little alliteration. So as Pip Bingman said about 2 years ago, the machines are here. While we are currently most concerned and enamored with AI and LLMs, the machines have actually been here for quite a while, and they've wreaked some pretty significant havoc on our industry. The sausage extruder advertising tools from some of our favorite social platforms have made it easier than ever for anybody with a message to blast it out to anybody, turning every brand we know into a direct-to-consumer, a DTC marketer. The machines have trained marketers, our clients, to follow data and best practices, which by the word is just code for sameness. To follow that data and best practices unquestionably, sometimes against their own better judgment, sometimes off of a cliff. And it has kept so many brands chasing relevance, what Gen Z or Gen A is into in the moment, over distinction. I mean, I'm sorry, but Jan Sport and Brat Summer have no business being in bed with each other. I think we saw, for example, every brand tracing this Charlie XCX trend. And again, I think you give up your distinction and your power as a brand by jumping on to some of these fleeting, mostly aesthetic relevance trends. The result's pretty predictable. It is work that looks and sounds and smells exactly the same. It is ideas that take the easy way out. Not your dad's shoe campaign, not your grandmother's shampoo. I don't even know what that means. And it has created a world of fast and often very fleeting content that is, I think, often being confused and conflated with culture. We figured this out when we were launching Edges this year. When you search on Google for the biggest cultural movements of 2024, Google actually corrects you and said, I think you meant moments, right? Not movements. So again, moving away from things that might feel enduring and sustainable to sort of these really quick hits. It is all resulting in this sort of cultural, commercial, and creative flattening. I love Kyle Chayka's book, Filter World. He said, by flatness, I mean, yes, homogenization, but also the fact that these algorithms prize the least ambiguous, the least disruptive, and perhaps the least meaningful pieces of culture. And those are the ones that they promote the most. So the backdrop, the sea of sameness, the flattening of culture. Meanwhile, back in business, nearly half of CEOs think that their company is not going to exist a decade from now if it continues on its own path, which tells me that real creativity, real strategy is needed more than ever. And as we look into the future, a shout out to Tess for this one, but as we look into the future, more of that negative version of disruption is all we can see. Change has become the norm, and it's only going to continue to be so for the foreseeable future. So buckle up that seatbelt if you haven't already. But what I would say is that we should not let that intimidate us, because that is the cycle. It has always been the cycle. We live in a world of cyclical disruption. And in that cycle, the only answer is disruption. That's the only antidote. That's the only solution to that. So like I said, I mean the positive, the precise, the creation-based version that only TBWA owns and only TBWA practices. I love this quote from William Gibson that the future is already here. It is just not evenly distributed. Disruption is how we ensure that TBWA and our clients earn, own, and command a much greater share of that future. So we're about to move into disruption defined now, but before we do that, I think there's a poll of some sort.
Yes. Why is it critical that we disrupt? So Jen has kind of taken us through some of the beats. Do you have any other reasons why from the poll that we have to disrupt now or we're going to die?
Mm-hmm. Don't die.
Don't die. We need you. To lead the market instead of following it is on top.
I'm not mad at that.
All right, people, we need more than 77 responses. We need 100. Come on, quickly.
Whew, better find that cursor.
We're at 92. We're at 92.
I wouldn't disappoint
Come
Rhonda
on.
on a Tuesday morning. It would not be me.
100.
Panic.
Okay. So we're leading the market instead of following it. Okay, so what is disruption? And I think like it's a term that's gotten a lot of oxygen, especially over the last decade when we've seen more change than we have in the last century. And the truth is, while we may use it a lot, I don't think we always mean it. And that's that's actually what we want to change. We're not here to give you a single definition, although we will, but we want to fill it with so much more intention so it becomes an unmistakable part of your armory. So I think, one of the many superpowers of disruption is that it's an incredible enabler to why we're all here. The world is in need of more radical solutions, and we desperately need invention, imagination, innovation, and we can do that through disruption, because disruption believes that small incremental steps just aren't enough. If we want to take the necessary leaps to guide us into the unknown, we need disruption. Disruption creates entirely new trajectories for our brands and our business. And that's because it's more a mindset than it is actually a set of tools and frameworks, although there is a ton out there. What I love about it is that it reframes how we see the world. From the smallest problems to the wildest outcomes, it gives us permission to ask why not, and not just what if. And if you read all the books on disruption, and if you haven't now, I hope after this you do, Jen and I just love some of the notions that are captured here. A tool that offers those who want to give birth to new ideas a chance to do just that. A system, as she said, for those people that hate systems, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's an agent of change because it makes us all agents of change, and it has this power to reorient all of us together towards new ideas. It's also just who we've always been. So now's not the time to lean back. And this is a picture from the archive of the birth of disruption. So you're all witnesses here. That's Lee Clow and Jean-Marie Drew, who will meet in a couple of weeks. He looks much younger here, but it so beautifully captures the chaos to creativity. Because let's be honest, it's never a straight path. It's not always easy. It's mayhem. But disruption is the path through. It navigates us into the crazy, but it also leads us out of it, which is scary, but also somehow very exhilarating and a little addictive once you get the knack of it. So the beauty and the curse is that, I'm sorry to say, there is no one way to do it. I think, as Jen mentioned, we've been doing this for a while, and I can't say that I've done it the same way twice. It's not paint by numbers. It's not straightforward. It's simple, but I think that's what gets me motivated by it, at least. And the question I've been asked the most over all these years is, what is it? Is it a culture? Is it our identity? Is it more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy? And you've seen this probably plastered around your offices. I've seen it as I've walked around those halls. Is it about creativity? Is it about constantly striving to do the brave thing and settling for nothing less? Is it about growth and capturing an unfair share of the future? Is it about the roadmap? Is it the iconicity of these symbols? And which have also evolved over time? Is it about transformation and creating a different future state permanently, even if only partially changed forever? Is it this guy, Jean-Marie True, the godfather of disruption? And the simple answer is yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is all these things. And whether you're an oldie or a newbie to the collective, you would have heard or lived through the many eras of disruption, and every one of these to this day remains true. It's our shared language, and words matter. And I'm going to share a story that I think Rhonda shared and then Jen shared with me, and now I'm sharing it with you, and hopefully you share it onwards as well. And it's about the Tower of Babel, and it really helps us to understand why. So long ago, people spoke with one voice, one language, and every word carried exactly the same meaning. And that was very unifying. And with that, they set out to do the impossible. They built a tower to touch the heavens. Now, God saw how much progress they were making, as the fable goes, and decided to confuse their language so they could no longer understand one another. And suddenly, clarity was, exchanged with confusion, and frustration replaced trust, and the work stopped, and the tower didn't just stand unfinished, it was left abandoned. And so the Tower of Babel didn't fall because it was weak. It was because people no longer spoke the same language. The words that they spoke didn't mean the same thing. And so it's really important for us to galvanize around an understanding, even though the way we may use it and the way it may show up looks different across the world, and across our work. So we are going to give you a single definition. And it's not, it's not a complete reinvention. I hope that you've seen and are familiar with these words. And we felt that this was the most simple, clearest path to describing, or explaining what disruption is. Disruption defines a vision that breaks market conventions and creates a new platform for growth. So if you are doing this, if you have a vision that steps away from a status quo or a convention and creates growth somewhere, you are disrupting. It's 3 beats. It's about defining this vision. What are we fighting for? It's about breaking market conventions and understanding what's holding you back. What are you fighting against? What's stopping you from getting closer to this vision? And ultimately, it creates a new platform for growth. What are you fighting with? This is your disruption. And it can take many shapes and forms. And when you bring these together, you create a roadmap. You have a status quo that you fight against, a future state that you fight for, and an idea, an experience that creates the behavior for your brand or business to actually cross the threshold from your convention to your vision. And it unlocks previously inaccessible or invisible possibilities. And that's what's really exciting when we talk about new trajectories. So this is a great story that also makes it really tangible. And I always think about this when I think about disruption, because it kind of cements it when you're kind of explaining it. This makes it very clear and very visceral. So for decades, high jumpers always leapt the same way. They straddled the bar. So they, jumped over it leaning forward. Then in 1968, Dick Fosby turned his back to it, arching overhead first. And it looked like a mistake. And everyone was like, oh my God, he fucked up. But actually that flip, that turn on the convention, not only unlocked a new world record, it forever changed the sport. And now has probably become the convention or the norm, and is probably craving disruption. And disruption is about just that. It's about creating new, sustainable outcomes, and not just one-offs, as Jen kind of mentioned. It's imagining an alternative future state that creates an entirely different growth journey. And it's one that's accelerated because it brings together the rigor of strategy, you know, the rigor of data and all this like smart thinking, but with the magic of creativity, you know, the spontaneity, the kind of unexpectedness. And that's what fuels growth. And I think the last thing I'll leave you with in this section is, you know, for all the intellectualization we can do, and as a strategist, I am, you know, guilty as charged. And it can make us very smart, and that's undeniable. But the important thing to remember is if you ask yourself, what is disruption? If you ask yourself, is this disruptive? Ask yourself, what does this feel like? Because it's something, as Tor said time and time again, you got to feel it. You intuitively know if something is breaking convention, if something is striving for something bigger, because it's undeniable. And so trust that feeling. You know, when in doubt, go back to your intuition and to your gut. And if you feel it, I think your goal to sell disruption, which I think is another question we get asked, is make people feel it too.
Yes, so yummy. Okay. It would be awfully unsatisfying if we were like, look, guys, it's never the same. It's always different. Good luck. We hope you feel it. Here are, while it is not color by numbers, while it is not a straight line every time, there do tend to be some shared ingredients that I think the disruption ideas that we hold up, that we celebrate, that we love the most, all often share. Nat has touched on some of these. Again, I hope these are not surprising to you, but I hope they give you language and almost a litmus test, a sniff test as you're looking at disruption ideas to see whether or not you've got it. This is the first one. Is it convention breaking? Is it an idea that basically challenges the status quo by going out and finding a convention, taking it by the jugular, and just absolutely shattering it in order to give us something that we have never seen before? I think conventions are really powerful for a lot of reasons. When I move into sort of the realm of the intellectual, what I love about it is it often represents kind of a smaller view of growth. If you're a soda brand or a laundry detergent brand, it means you're just out there fighting for the exact same customers that already exist. But if you really challenge a convention, it means that you can find a much bigger point of view on growth. The other reason why it's really powerful in the work is that it finds those norms, those assumptions, those just how it is isms. It finds them, it identifies them for us, and it gives us a framework for challenging them. And that's how we kind of create that appetite, that desire, that inclination to just do something different, which is how we define disruption. I think the beautiful thing about conventions as well is that they are literally all around us. You can probably find them. Rhonda gave an indication around like finding disruption in your own personal leadership style. You've probably got them in sort of how you act or how you think. If we're thinking about the brands we work on, you can find them in the market, how products or prices are displayed. You can find it in how a category might demonstrate its benefit or how it talks about itself. You can find it in human behavior in our audience and culture. You can find conventions inside of your client's business. It might be a limiting belief about how they think about themselves or who they are. They can exist in channel, in execution, in craft, and media. It almost doesn't matter where you find them, as long as they give us the springboard to do something very unexpected and incredibly clever. Just as a quick example, I mean, look, here's a smattering effectively of 5 powerful conventions have done amazing things. I love the work from France around Dom, challenging the idea that status is sort of a vertical idea, because instead they're looking to inspiration as more status, which is, again, a very different point of view on what makes status. Singapore Airlines, as well as Hilton, actually, kind of 2 brands in the travel category, they have found incredible banger platforms and tons of great work in the idea that people care about the destination, not the hotel or not the flight. You want an example of an internal convention? Gatorade was a fantastic one. You know, as long as they thought about themselves as just a sports drink, they could never act like a sport brand. So by overturning that convention of, oh, we're all about hydration and electrolytes, they were able to take a much bigger point of view on the culture of sport. Nat and I worked on Airbnb for years. People travel like tourists. They go and they do, and they look at the same list of to-do items in a city that everyone else has gone to. If you can challenge that convention, that gets you to belong anywhere and live there. The 10-minute TikTok, I think, is a very powerful example from Hilton of creativity. And I love that they were effectively challenging the idea that TikTok is a place for scrolling rather than staying. So again, you can see that if you look to the world, if you look to the landscape, you can find conventions almost anywhere. Probably one of my favorite examples is the BMW convenience store out of Asia, and I think out of China in particular. They effectively saw consumer behavior of people looking to try to buy cars through some of their delivery platforms. And instead of allowing that limitation or that convention, which is like you can only buy it in a dealership, to stay, they absolutely said, nah, we're going to do this a little bit differently. So first ingredient, be convention breaking. Second, be powered by a strong platform. What is a platform, you might ask? I love this idea from New York that a platform is any idea that effectively liberates creativity. But in order to be a platform, it's got to move, it's got to last, it's got to integrate disparate things, and it's got to orchestrate all the parts of a business. I don't think that there's any better show of force of platforms than the gorgeous minds over at Mal and Apple. Whether we're talking about behind the Mac, shot on iPhone, the future of health on your wrist, they do a magnificent job of finding platforms where there is no gap and no daylight between brand, product, and experience. And these are big ideas that have lasted. Shot on iPhone just won the Grand Prix for effectiveness for 10 years. It has orchestrated everything from big spots all the way down to consumer and cultural behavior on Instagram. So great. If you have not studied these platforms, I strongly suggest you do it because they're just so good on so many levels. I think there has been, in particular in kind of recent times, a question about whether or not platforms are still relevant. You know, we live in such fragmented media ecosystems. Do they really still matter? The research plus my gut says, yeah, they do. Because platforms protect us from the collapse in creative effectiveness. It is harder than it has ever been to make a big impact and land something. Platforms and the power of compound creativity make sure that we don't just grow incrementally, but we grow in a big transformative way. That's why platforms matter. And as we are, TBWA is sort of the home of some of the best, most iconic, platforms that are in the mouths of consumers and culture. These are some of my favorites. And I think the other gorgeous thing to acknowledge here is that a platform doesn't have to always be the same. If we're looking at Adidas or Gatorade, these are two brands that have had a bit of a shift in perspective as time has changed. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think the beautiful thing about both of those is they've kept sort of a kernel and a core of who and what they were, and then brought that up to modern times. So as you're looking at a platform, I think the big question, and this is sort of that big idea that sits underneath the idea of what are we fighting with? You are just looking for big ideas that can travel, that are simple, but that change the game because of the way they move you away from convention towards that more visionary idea. If you do a platform right, it's going to confront that assumption, that just how it is-ism. It's going to resolve the tension between what is status quo and what the future could be. And then maybe the most important thing is down here at the bottom. They are actions and behaviors. They are verbs. They are not nouns. They are not taglines. They are not positions. That's because they are a springboard to action. They have to command a new behavior for the brand and for the category. And of course, they have to inspire great work. That's what makes a great disruption platform. And like I said, there's no better than Shot on iPhone. This is a picture of Beyonce's butt for the third ingredient. The best disruption ideas are engineered with head-turning amplification and reach in mind. This came out of an idea that, or an observation we actually had coming out of Cannes about 2 years ago, which is that you can no longer separate the ideas that we are the most jealous of from their amplification plans. I've got Clash from the Past up here on screen. But whether we're talking about the Michael Cera CeraVe work, where paparazzi took photos of him with all the CeraVe, and there was quite an internet rumor that he was the creator and the maker, to the gorgeous work tracking Bad Bunny across Puerto Rico, to even this absurd image of a grown-ass man sniffing another grown-ass man's crotch for Lynx scratch and sniff for their deodorant spray. These are all ideas that don't just go, what is our idea? And then how do we bring it to the world? Let's call the PR people and make sure that they get amplified. Instead, they move us to a world where idea and amplification are working hand in hand. That cultural reach was thought of from the very, very beginning. You might have heard the word amp arts being thrown around. This is almost sort of the evolution, the modern update on media arts. But all it is effectively our ability to create head-turning reach and impact because an idea was engineered and created with that amplification in mind. And amplification is going to come not from hoping, praying, or having a great PR person, although that certainly helps, but it is very much about embedding a modern suite of skills upstream into the strategic process, into the creative development process, and then combining them in interesting ways. Connection strategy, mid-funnel content, earned attention, as well as social. We've got different products that help us do this, and you don't have to have all 4 of these. But again, I would really encourage you as you're thinking about your work to think about what are ingenious combinations of these things and how far upstream in the process can we get them. Because when we practice amp arts, and again, this is the thing that I think a lot of people already inherently do. I think you will really see this from the work of Pete and Emmanuel, as well as Russ Tucker and Michael Hogg in Sydney. But it allows us to disrupt moments and behaviors and channels and how people move through the world. And that is what makes powerful disruption.
We have another poll, I believe. What makes a great platform or convention? So this is actually, we got to jump answers in. Is that right, Armando?
Yes, it's already on the chat.
Okay. This requires you guys to freehand from your experience, from your best guess. Does anyone have any first thoughts? Yes, so it can be to either. I think, what do you think makes a best platform, or what do you think, is necessary to find a great convention?
I would say, I know you're not asking me, but I single-mindedness is good. I think you've got to really know the rules in order to break them. Like, I think you've got to be a real expert. You had to have really studied that category, that culture, and only then can you find the convention that's actually the most meaningful. Because there are a bunch of conventions that I think are easy to chase, but probably don't get you anywhere great.
I think some conventions are like the codes that you need to navigate the category, and you need to protect them.
Not all conventions are bad. Like,
yeah, exactly.
A good cheese pull, absolutely conventional as hell, but it does a thing.
It's interesting because I think it's easy to react to conventions, and we see that that's always been a starting point. And I think what's interesting when we talk about the roadmap, some people start with vision, some people start with convention. Publicist works. Good.
A couple of the answers I think are really interesting in here. I love, something that changes behavior positively. Somebody, I think Ben Myers, said that it's something that we blindly follow. So something that we may not even realize has so much power over us, but then you question it, you're like, oh, yeah, that absolutely governs the category or culture.
Yeah, I think
Who said publicist? Emmanuel, yeah.
I love what Ash has said as well. It can live naturally and iconically across the entire company. It can't be a one-off. It has to be really sustainable. It only works once somewhere, then it's not a platform. It might just be a great execution.
And this is a good one from Pete. A convention is that tension point where there is so much friction that if disruption can remove it or relens it, it opens up a totally new white space. I couldn't have said that better myself. Yeah. Very good. Love that. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Well done. Love that.
Yes, pass. Disruption today. I think it's great that we see disruption everywhere. I think we don't see it enough, but we definitely are seeing it. And it's rebellion with rigor. It's thoughtful and smart, but it's courageous and a little daring, like the No Smiles campaign out of our friends in Japan. It's an insatiable intolerance for the unpredictable. It's creating the unexpected, which Jen mentioned, and that can really be a very powerful currency. Like the team have done here at, with Odito and creating an analog mobile. It's enduring platforms that we just talked about. It's amplification, as Jen mentioned, absolutely everywhere. I think the work that we did on family mode for McDonald's has the distinctiveness and scale to launch across lots of different platforms and in lots of different markets. I think it exists at every point of creation, and people often think it's just like a comms thing, but it's so much more, and it can happen at every level. So disruption actually has a pretty limitless portfolio, from building new business models for Airbnb to tearing down formats to create new ones for Hilton, that we've spoke about. We're building experiences, even if we're telling stories about them, and those things can live in cohesion and collaboration with each other. So the big question is, I think today, is when do you disrupt? And I can't tell you when exactly. You need to feel it, going back to feel it, but I can share some signals that can tell you it's really time to bring it to the table. Maybe these are some things that you're recognizing now on projects that you're working on. When you hear, it's just the way we do it. It's just always done that way. There's a real kind of legacy of protecting what's been done before. When things start to get really predictable, when clients want something safe, familiar, or tried or true, and they keep kind of asking that, and you intuitively know this isn't going to reach the results that we need. Often there's a contradiction happening. We say we stand for this, but we're doing this. You read the client kind of manifesto and their vision, and they're like, da, 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 da. But then the brief or the work or the way they're evaluating the work is really stifling that vision. A misalignment or gap. People are acting differently than our brand is behaving. We've set out, this is what happened with Adidas. We were a brand for an audience that was no longer buying us. And we had to pivot and reorient and adjust. Or you're just hitting an emotional flatline. We know, if you think about the system ones and all of this research, the power of emotion. But people feel nothing. It's passing all the link tests, or it's hitting all the kind of green lights, but nobody remembers it, and nobody's talking about it. These are moments when you can kind of say, hey, maybe we should bring disruption in whatever form you feel is right to the conversation, and change the conversation. So the thing is, there is endless resources to help you with the how. And you may have heard these or seen these: Disruption X, Disruption Live, Disruption Days, Disruption Index, Disruption Accelerator. If you haven't, I encourage you to explore them. They are super useful power tools. But all of these are there to help you to get to either disruption platforms, and disruption experiences. So we have simplified the workflow with this in mind. It's at its core about platforms and experiences and how these kind of work together. But we have 3 areas of focus to help us create and connect these. We have disruptive growth, which is about identifying the spaces we need to own to get a disproportionate share of the future. I know what Pete was saying in his comments. Disruptive brand, the platform that will enable us to own that space and do that consistently and sustainably, across lots of different spaces. And disruptive experiences, how we amplify that platform to drive deeper engagement in the world. So each of these focuses are unlocked by a set of tools. And we look at really 5 big questions. So what are the market foundations? You're talking in disruptive growth. This is where you look at brand economics. And the second, I think most used, at least in my armory, is the disruptive demand map. It's about asking what could fuel future disruptive growth. What is the white space that's going to help us grow, find new audiences or new kind of products or spaces. The disruption roadmap, which we've talked about, which is about identifying what behaviors our platforms need to drive. What can we create what can we do to create disruptive reach and impact? And here, I think you may have remember it as being around experiences. This is where amplification art. It's more than just experiences. It's about creating reach and impact. And then obviously you look at experience economics. So how can that drive continued value? And there are 5 questions that you can ask to help you unlock and connect your disruptive platform with your disruptive experience. So to help answer those questions, we have accelerants. And this is Omni AI, this is Accelerator, this is Backslash, this is Next. These are all accelerants to help you answer those questions. And you can connect these to different expertise. So feed, Plex, sold, ... dash, D by D. This is where we can bring disruption to life. This is the where. So if you're looking at this and kind of saying, how do I navigate, this stack? It's much more simplified and condensed than maybe what you've seen before. But I think the key advice I can offer you is, what problem are you solving? Because this workflow is not linear. You can enter at different moments and you may have different things in hand. So different things may be relevant to you. So, for example, if your clients have no idea what problem that they're solving for, but they're convinced of the answer, maybe you tap into like brand economics and ask, what are the market foundations actually here of this category? If your clients, you're reinventing or asking what's next for your brand, maybe this is a time to relook at your disruption roadmap and you bring in Backslash and edges and you identify a new vision that creates a different trajectory for your brand. The output you're doing is always advertising. This is where you pull out amplification arts and you kind of mix a little bit of Next in there and you create a whole different experience for your clients to explore different ways to express your platform. Or your product is parody, growth is stagnant, it's just like your whole brand is flatlining. This is where you pull out a demand map and ask yourself, what could fuel future disruptive growth? So the thing I want to leave you here is with, don't just disrupt for the sake of it. I think disruption can get a bad rap because we either underuse it or we overuse it. Disrupt like you mean it, but do it with purpose. It's not a magic bullet, but it can absolutely bring out the best in you. So embrace it, play with it, argue with it, but always ask, does it solve a real tension? Like, what is this disruption actually solving a real prevalent problem in the world or for your audience or for your brand, not just because you want to get a cool idea out there? Is it creating meaningful value? Does it create change that actually, has some kind of tangible impact to the business, to the client, or to your consumer? Are people ready for it? A lot of times there are great disruptions and it just wasn't the right time. It was too early. Often, sometimes it can be too late, therefore it's not disruptive anymore. But make sure people are ready for it. Will it impact something that matters? This goes going back to like, what's your lens or criteria that you're evaluating it against? And can you commit to it? Because I think the worst thing is to start something great and not follow through. So make sure it isn't a false promise. Make sure as an organization, as a team, you can deliver it and you can walk the talk. And I think that's something that Jen's going to talk to, because this is ours. This is how we own it. And more of this proof of concept of disruption is only going to make us more powerful in everything we do every day.
That is the last message that we want to leave you with, which is, what is your role in all of this? Nat just said, look, make sure that you know the problem, that you can commit, that you can really solve a tension. So I'll go just a little bit further on that before we sort of open up for any final questions. We think that this is actually the era of the disruptor. Like I said, there is a single definition of disruption, and that power, when we all speak the same language, just like the Tower of Babel, we can build the tower all the way to the heavens. So if disruption is always in constant beta, if it is not dogma, if it is a framework for people that don't like frameworks, this means that its ultimate power is in the problems that you train it at, it's in the conversations you have as teams, and it's really in your own ability to behave to the ambition. One thing that you might have noticed, maybe you didn't, maybe you did, we've not shown you a single roadmap here. We've got decks and decks of amazing, powerful, beautiful disruption stories that I have personally gained so much from. I'm sure so many of you have as well. Nat and I made a very conscious decision not to put a full case study or a full roadmap in this, because I think it can be a little bit like, it holds you to like there's a comparison there that I don't want you to do yet, that we don't want you to do yet. You look at Apple's roadmap, you look at, I don't know, Gatorade or Airbnb or Singapore Airlines, you look at those roadmaps and you go, wow, those are amazing. And you start immediately comparing your thinking and your ideas to that. And we don't want you to do that. We don't want to just replicate more of the past. We want to create that greater share of the future. So when we say this is the era of the disruptor, that's exactly what we mean. We hope today brings out the best in you. It helps you, yes, use the same definition as all of us, but again, to really take your part in the build of the big tower. So this is your invitation for you to disrupt. We'll come back to this just sort of at the very end here, but we would love to know, go ahead and hold this in your mind while we finish out here in this last minute or two. What will you do coming out of today? You know, we've got the rest of Disruptor Die Academy, so you'll have more training, there'll be more conversations, there will be tons of great cases and roadmaps and all the rest of it. But I'm curious what people's intentions will be, any resolutions you'll make, any actions you'll take coming out of this, so that we really live into the era of the disruptor. You know, there's no formula, meaning you can't do it wrong, by the way. That's the beauty of there being no formula. You can only do what feels right. And I think when we change our thinking from how do I do disruption to what can't disruption do, that's when really magical, powerful things happen. I think that means it's also time for us to stop reskinning and rearticulating disruption, quit reinventing it, and instead just recommit to it, meaning that we believe it, we own it, we care about it harder than anybody else. Sometimes I feel a bit sad when I see, you know, Gary Vee or the CCO of Mother, Greg Hahn, like it feels like they're almost using our idea and they're talking about it more loudly. I actually would love for all of our pirates' voices to be the ones that are actually seen, recognized, and heard talking about disruption. And disruption is also a thing that is very easy to over-intellectualize. There are books, there are training modules. We're about to do one right here. There's so much content that you can take on, but you will only learn disruption by doing it. So come to class, hear the voices, understand the points of view, and then just do it. To use a sport brand that we don't talk about very much here. Just go for it. Just try it. Whether it's a big brand reinvention or a very small tactical brief, the principles and the ethos of disruption will serve every single thing you do. I'll remind everybody as well that we will have a migration to a different upgraded site thanks to Allison Stevens, but for now, everything we have still lives on Knowledge. So if you want to get a point of view on Disruption Accelerator, Disruption X, the philosophy, great case studies, that is all still available to you right here and right now on Knowledge. The last little thing I just want to talk about, we've teased this just a little bit, but we have managed to talk Jean-Marie Drew into having an unfiltered, hard home truth, gloves off conversation with Nat and I. So this came about through the lens of, again, I think a little bit of like, yeah, we've done a lot of amazing training on disruption, in particular driven by Rhonda and her team. But what if there were things that Jean-Marie Drew wanted to say to us that he hasn't said yet? Places where he thinks we get it really right and places where we get it really wrong. So we have talked our Frenchman, our favorite Frenchman, into having, and he, by the way, he needs no help. If you've spent any time with him, he needs no help. He's just going to do it on a more public stage. So Jean-Marie Drew Unfiltered will be on October the 23rd, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, and 4 o'clock over in Europe. So that, I thank every single one of you for being here. Shall we open ourselves? I cannot remember what's supposed to happen now. Shall we open up to questions as well as intentions and resolutions for people about what they're going to do coming out of this training? But otherwise, thank you for being here.
Jen,
yes, please.
There are actually a few questions
Yeah.
in
Oh,
the
beautiful.
Q&A section.
Oh, let's go.
Jesper, you're making us proud.
What are the questions? Sorry, guys, I probably can't see it.
I can't see.
Yeah, what are they? I think you guys might be the only ones that can see.
They are in the Q&A.
So it's from Jesper. Can you elaborate on the disruption platform, in parentheses, the middle of the roadmap? Is it a creative line? Is it a strategic construct? Both, depending on context.
When you, let me try to pull this up, and when you look, Jesper, at probably the ideas that we end up celebrating the most, they do tend to be lines that you see being used externally in work. So this is an example of some of the greats. Live there, think different, in an absolute world, shift from Nissan, dogs rule. These were simultaneously creative lines that showed up in the work, but they were also behavioral instructions. They told these companies how to act. And for me, that's the most important thing. If you look at a brand like Gatorade, win from within is an idea that shows up on some of its work, but not all of its work. So I think that there is not probably again, annoyingly, a one size fits all version of this. I think where people get really tripped up is when strategists are writing roadmaps and they're putting a strategic idea underneath that disruption triangle. And then they go, well, hell, this doesn't hold a candle to, impossible is nothing or dogs rule. It's not right. So I would say to think of it as it's a bit of a dance, it's a bit of an evolution, it's a bit of a journey. I think you've always got to start strategically. I think you have to start with that strategic behavior you want to create. And then I think the challenge is creatively, how can we elevate it? How can we put words around it that capture it even more cleanly, potently, beautifully?
I just add, don't not write it because it's not pithy enough. Like, I think
That's
the
right.
first iteration of Gatorade was what you put on your body is more important than what you put in your body is more than what you put on your body.
That's right.
And then it kind of like was reduced to this line. So I think always go for clarity over like kind of like a creative
Poetry.
line because you can get to it. So
I'm a big believer in putting something underneath that disruption triangle that makes the creatives go, ooh, like I get it and I'm excited by the
Get it.
behavior, but those
I can make
words
it
can never
better.
show up. And then, yeah, resolve. You guys might have to help us out. Any more questions? I know I can't figure out how to see it. I'm really sorry.
I can ask a thing.
Yeah,
So
cool.
Jimmy asked, disruption is change, and that's terrifying. How do you get clients to go along in ideas that scare the shit out of them?
I think that we do ourselves a disservice when we do a disruption ta-da. When we keep our clients in the dark and we show it to them at the very end and we're like, isn't this beautiful? Don't you love it? I think you got to know who your clients are. I think you have to be clear about what their ambition is, and then disruption should help them behave to that ambition. So as long as that's what you're doing, I think it becomes really easy to sell it in. This is also where I think we sometimes think about, I'm not doing disruption right unless I'm literally presenting a roadmap to my client. You can present all of this thinking in a brand house or fill in the blank here, some model or framework that your client has. We don't have to follow this to the T, but that's where I think disruption is a way of thinking more than it is a couple of symbols that you have to put words underneath.
Because I think just to add on that, when you mention that, like take your client along the journey, you forget like we're exposed and talking about this all the time and they're not. And then we walk into the room and we're like, hey, didn't you see this, this work or this thing? And they haven't. So really, like we have so many tools and so many kind of like artifacts to help guide that discussion. And resilience really pays off. I think there are ideas that don't exist in the world, not because they weren't great, but because people didn't fight for them. And so like disruption is a starting point. It's also an outcome, but it can be a very long journey.
Okay, I have now found the Q&A and can see this part. Disruption is change, and that's terrifying. Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, you've got to have a client. I mean, there are very few clients out there who want to do the exact same work as their competitive set, as the category, that want to look like everybody else, that don't want to be distinctive. So I think so much of disruption is showing our clients as partners what is available to them if they can let go of some of these norms or conventions that just don't serve them that well. And look, I think that that's where there can be big D disruption and little D disruption. Sometimes the best we can do, and I hope we have fewer of these clients than not, but sometimes the best we can do is think about something like the BMW convenience store or a 10-minute TikTok. Really go at a channel or an executional or a craft convention. And that's, I think, a wonderful way to dip your toe in. If you're not ready to overhaul the business that you're in or try to elevate above the category. I like that.
I think just an important point is disruption is always contextual to your vision and your convention. So I think a lot of times, like having worked, in different markets too, it doesn't feel disruptive compared to some big work. But when you put it against a convention, it is disruptive. So disruption is contextual too. It may be disruptive for you and not for another market or not for another audience. So remember, like always view it or anchor it. That's why there's kind of 3 elements to it in what are you actually fighting against and what are you actually fighting for, because it needs to live between those 2 anchors. I think Jimmy also asked, what's the most comprehensive, up-to-date, best of the best resource on disruption and how to use it?
On knowledge, Jimmy. You gotta get yourself to knowledge, my guy.
Yeah.
You got something better, you can put it up there.
I was gonna say, try to beat it. If you got it, let's do it. I mean, I think that there's a couple, like if you are, if you're either looking for a recommitment or to sort of get schooled up, I actually believe there's not a better book than Jean-Marie Drew's very first book. I think the most foundational, fundamental, clearly spoken concepts exist within that. He has written many others around innovation and business cases. They're all good. If I'm ever feeling a bit like I need a dose of inspiration, I go there because it reminds me, outside of cred slides, outside of cutesy language, it reminds me what the entire purpose of disruption is. So I'm a big believer in that book. I also love I like looking at cases from some of the greats. Those are also all up on knowledge. And then I hope as we move through the rest of this academy, this becomes the best, most comprehensive, most up-to-date, best of the best resource on disruption, how to use it. Nat, do you have anywhere else you like to go?
No, I think I think the danger of going to case studies and I that's where I go to, but it gives me confidence, it gives me inspiration. But I think the danger is when you try to replicate roadmaps or language, and which is actually the antithesis of disruption because it's looking at something that's been done before. And so I think go have a look at it, find what speaks to you, because I think everyone has a different starting point, and talk about it. I think the best resource I have is Jen, but find your ally, and balance. It doesn't have to be a strategist. It can be like creative partner, business partner, and just write roadmaps. Like I think when I started, it was kind of this holy grail, and you did one, and you had one pristine one that you would kind of hold up to be judged by everyone. And now I don't know about you, Jim. I just write hundreds, like as many as I can. I just kind of get them all out of my body, and then you kind of gravitate to the one that's strongest, or you can see there's themes that are really powerful in them.
I wanna plus one what Emmanuel put in the chat about disruption days. Like today was all about the most baseline, foundational, like disruption 101, if you will. Disruption days are like chef's kiss. You got a client you're trying to sell a big idea to, disruption day. You want to do a big overhaul, you got a lot of different people in a lot of different disciplines or organizations or agencies, disruption day. You're just trying to get there faster, actually D-Day, because it's a bit of a like go slow to go really, really fast. I think when you do disruption days right, they're almost like Inception. The clients feel like they actually engineered and authored the solution. With you have probably pushed a point of view that is even more provocative and more disruptive than you could have gotten to if you're just sitting here presenting a slide deck. And they often unlock ideas that move way beyond comms, and because you often are inviting your product people, your research people, your IT, your technology partners, you tend to be able to actually enact those ideas rather than the long slog of let me try to sell a new product or new experience idea by having 17 presentations. So disruption days are really, they're powerful and they really get us to the outcome a lot faster. Thank you for putting that in the chat, Emmanuel. That's right. All right, folks, we got anything else? What else? Woo! Do you mean to tackle these you mean do a quick lightning round with these last ones, Rhonda? You're gonna close us. I know you're a much more punctual woman than I am.
Armando's driving.
Oh, Armando.
Yeah, I think the time has come. Like we accomplished all the milestones in our agenda. So I think it's time to go, and nothing but thank all the parties that they are joining here to this call. There's a full series that we will be hosting. So thank you for showing up, and remember, disrupt or die.
Yeah, I would say to the ones who had the questions that you know where to find Natalie and Jen. Inbox them, slide into their DMs. Oh, all right, Armando. Thank you so much for that. And for everyone, yeah, don't die. Yeah, we love you. And we'll see you at the next session with Meg and Dustin. Yeah.
That's right. All right, folks. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
ZOD,
Jen,
bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Jen and Nat, thank you for what a beautiful send-off.